I welcome you all with my love and respects. If you go to Patanjali and ask, I am in love with somebody, please give me the technique for enlightenment. First thing he will start, ahimsa, satya, brahmacharya, aparigraha, steya. Let me be very honest, I have not seen a single person who achieved all those things, then came to yoga. No. He says, first became a celibate, first became truthful, first became the non-stealing person, first live the simple life, first learn non-violence, then come for yoga. If you have learnt all these things, then why you need yoga? If you know all these things, why you need yoga? No. But that things, anything impractical will appeal for human mind. I tell you. See, the egoistic mind, always it appeals if it is impractical, if it is great, if it is a big goal. That is why in the West, yoga has become so popular. Yoga has become so popular, it appeals to your ego. You have to do this, you have to do that. The other day, somebody came to me and asked, Swamiji, am I ready for practicing celibacy? Please tell me. I told him that you should decide. I won't be able to decide. I can decide only for me. Only you have to decide for you. Then he asked, don't you encourage me that I should practice? I said, I can encourage you if you are interested in doing that for enlightenment. But I feel your attitude is more interested in that ego fulfillment. Like achieving. You see, the celibacy, if it happens, when you travel towards enlightenment, it is beautiful. Your whole energy is directed towards enlightenment. But if you try to do it by fighting with you, just to conquer some part of you which you don't like, then you will have only stronger and stronger ego and more complications. Understand? You need to understand this very clearly. I am neither supporting nor speaking against. I am telling you the straight truth. If you are traveling towards enlightenment, and if it happens in you, because all your energy is directed. You don't have time to do all this nonsense. Where is the time to buy some rose and presenting it to somebody and waiting for that person to reply? All nonsense, no time. You are too busy. And where is the time to share? If it happens, it is beautiful, because your whole inner space is already occupied with somebody or with some truth, higher consciousness. It's beautiful. But you have some problem in sharing your life or not being a celibate in your relationship or anything. You have some problem, some difficulty. So you decide, now I should conquer my emotions. I am disturbed just because I have not conquered my emotions. If you decide with the attitude of a Kshatriya, warrior, you will fall like Vishwamitra. Understand? If celibacy happens to you like a Vasishta, you will achieve enlightenment. It's the right celibacy. If you work like a Vishwamitra, like a conquering mood, the attitude of fight, you will fall like Vishwamitra. See, the Vishwamitra story says, the Ramba, Menaka, Urvasi, all of them came down and they disturbed him. I don't think anybody is sending from somewhere above. It is his own suppressions. After some time just came out. I don't think somebody is sitting in heaven and watching you if you are really meditating sincerely, and immediately they are sending some Ramba or Urvasi, some Menaka to disturb your meditation. If that happens, I know for sure millions will meditate. Millions will meditate. I don't think somebody is sitting there and sending Ramba, Menaka, Urvasi. No. This guy's suppression. He is sitting on a volcano and suppressing, fighting with himself. He is basically Kshatriya, king. He doesn't know anything except fighting. When he turned towards spirituality, he started the same thing. Fighting. Understand? The goal may be the same, but the path in which you travel should be very clear. Celibacy may be the right goal, but if the decision is made because of wrong reasons, you will be failure. You will be failure. The decision should be made with the right reason. With the right reason. That is why I always tell people, it is not for all. It is not for all. The right reason, right person. Only based on that you can prescribe celibacy. You can prescribe renunciation. We need to be very careful before taking these major decisions. Here, Mahadeva opens the door. He gives you the technique. Even if you are in love with some person or an object, he is not straight away prescribing one medicine for all. Maybe in the physical plane it is okay. In the physical plane, one medicine for generalization is possible. But in the conscious level, it is not possible. No. Impossible. It is impossible. Somebody asked me, Swamiji, why in Hinduism, Vedic tradition, so many gods? I told him, why in your country you have so many varieties of cars? Because we did so much of research and development in that field, we have so many variety. You did research and development in this field, you have so many variety. That's all. See, in any field you do research and development, you will have variety. You will have customized things. You will have more luxury, more comfort, more better things. That's all. The countries which did research and development in the outer world, they developed lot of comforts and luxury. The countries which did lot of research and development in the inner world, they developed lot of techniques and methods. Here, Shiva is giving you the technique. From where you are standing. There is no single teaspoon feeding in Vedic system. No. There is no one method. People tell me, Swamiji, a big drawback in our Vedic system, we don't have one God and one belief system. I say no. That is the main plus point. That's a great achievement. A single ideology cannot suit every human being. No. You can't give same kind of medicine. No. You can't give same kind of meditation. You need to understand where the person is there and you need to help him from that space. You are standing in 11th floor and the guy is standing in the first floor and you are shouting, oh, this place is so beautiful, please come up, come up, come up, but you never tell him where the lift is or where the staircase is. He can't do anything. If you create too much greed, he may try to jump towards you and only fall and break the bones. That is what happens to many people when they only feel greedy about the state of enlightenment, but not given the right technique. I always tell people, the danger of living around the enlightened master is falling in greed with the state in which he is living. See, when you see somebody from day in and day out so joyful, untouched by anything, so ecstatic, you really feel a little jealous. And you really feel, and especially day in and day out, morning till night, he is living like a flower. And he is facing much more troubles and problems than us. He has got enough of work, so much of decision making, everything. He is living like a flower. You a little jealous. And especially when you see so many people are being attracted and so many people are respecting, so much of attention he is enjoying, you think. But the big problem, the same greed should come towards the method also. Not only just the state, method also. When you don't know the method or don't have enough taste for method, and you just have taste and greed for the state, you are in danger of trying to jump and breaking the bone. Here, Shiva is not at all dangling the carrot in front of you. No. He is straight away giving you the technique. If you are in love with somebody, if you are in love with some object, please let us start the meditation. That's what he says. He is not saying, you are wrong, you are right. No. He is not judging. There is a beautiful story from Mahabharata. See, the Ramayana and Mahabharata is not just stories. They express so many great ideas. It's like so many ideas and great truths were described and made as converted into living ideals and put in presented to us. That is the greatness of those great books. Still now, these two books remain as the longest poem on the planet Earth. Still now, more than 100,000 slokas. Longest poem on the planet Earth. Mahabharata, there is a beautiful story. Duryodhana and Karna's wife, both of them are sitting and playing dice. Understand? Karna is very close to Duryodhana. They are very closely connected. The real friendship is described through the relationship of Karna and Duryodhana. Actually, the Karna and Duryodhana's wife, both of them are playing. Duryodhana's wife is sitting facing the door. Karna is sitting opposite to her. Both of them are playing the dice. Suddenly Duryodhana enters into the room. When she saw the husband coming, she just got up out of the respect. In those days, women used to respect men. Traditionally, in Vedic times, in India, men received a lot of respect. She just got up. And the game was going on. Actually, she was about to lose the game. So Karna thought she is trying to run away, because she is losing. So he just held her hip, the beautiful jewel which was there in her hip, made out of pearls. He held that jewel and pulled her. Hey, where are you running? Understand the situation. The Duryodhana is coming. Karna doesn't know the Duryodhana is inside. He just held her hip and pulled that jewelry, and the mala broke. All the pearls have fallen. Duryodhana entered. Now Karna understood that Duryodhana is here. After doing that, he understood that Duryodhana is here. She also shouted, hey, Duryodhana is coming. My husband is coming. See, now the situation is such that Duryodhana has to very clearly express he doesn't suspect. He doesn't suspect the relationship. He doesn't have any problem. He doesn't feel uncomfortable towards the whole scene. He has to assure Karna that I don't feel uncomfortable. What you did, please relax. Because in the tradition, especially touching the hip or pulling a meghala or the jewel in the hip is too intimate. Too intimate. And the next line, Vyasa writes beautifully, Duryodhana is asking Karna, should I pick up the beads or will you pick up? See, he is not talking about anything else. He is not judging. He is not saying what you did is right or wrong. Even if he says what you did is right, Karna will feel uncomfortable. He is supporting me because I am his friend. He is just avoiding that subject. He is not saying what you did is right. He is not saying what you did is wrong. No. He is just saying, shall I pick up or will you pick up? Shall we do it? Shall we pick up the beads? This is called completely accepting the situation, not only not judging, giving the secured feeling to that person, you are not judged, please relax. In one word, you see, any other word could have caused deep feeling of insecurity in the mind of Karna or in her mind. But the words of Duryodhana is such, it neither created insecure feeling in Karna's mind or in Duryodhana's wife's mind. Same way here, when you go to Shiva, he is not judging you. He is not giving you the feeling of insecurity. Straight away he is saying, sit, let us start the work over. He is not saying, you are right. If he says you are right, you can always think, I think this guy wants something from me. That is why he is supporting me. I have seen people come to me with some problem. If I tell them, hey, it is wrong, they think, no. Why should I go to him? He is condemning me. If I say it's okay, you are right, please relax, they think, no, I think he needs me as his follower. That is why he is not advising me. He is just supporting my ego. Big difficulty. You can neither tell this nor tell that. Here, Shiva is neither supporting nor rejecting. He is straight away working.
Nityam Sharanam Gacchami, Dhyanam Sharanam Gacchami, Anandam Sharanam Gacchami, Nityanandam Sharanam Gacchami.
Nityam Sharanam Gacchami, Dhyanam Sharanam Gacchami, Anandam Sharanam Gacchami, Nityanandam Sharanam Gacchami. Nityam Sharanam Gacchami, Dhyanam Sharanam Gacchami, Anandam Sharanam Gacchami, Nityanandam Sharanam Gacchami.
गच्छामि आनन्दं शरणं